Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, post Samhain. Hello, Eve. Trick or treating.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot all about Halloween. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Which adds to a beautiful energy around the space that we're sharing today with our beautiful guest,
Yes.
who's still in the
midst of it.
Yes, because it's evening where she is sitting today.
Yes. We are lucky, very lucky to have another beautiful woman on our podcast, Suzanne Spooner. She is a QHHT and TAUK, which is the Art of Universal Knowing practitioner. In 2009, she explored spiritual response therapy using charts and pendulum to find and release negative thought patterns and replace them with positive and supportive ideas. Shortly thereafter, a system of channeling came through her called the Art of Universal Knowing, which is TAUK for short. In 2012, she took her first class in quantum healing hypnosis technique with Dolores Cannon and instantly felt a homecoming. Amazing. Beautiful. This is all what we love, talking in our area.
So much.
So thank you so much for joining us from across the other side of the world in Iowa. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you for joining us, Suzanne, and welcome to Girl Awakening.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is always fun. As we were talking a little bit before, I love Australia and I love Australians, and I feel like it's a second home for me. So it's a joy to meet with you guys and share with you and your audience.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Well, a little bit more around your information on your amazing website, where you talk a little bit around how you empower your clients, and it's been coming to us so loud recently around being in trust and listening to our intuition and really exercising that part of ourselves, but also being aware of the signs and looking for the signs. And there's already quite a few of these signs like crossing over with our connection with you today, and particularly things like with the QHHT and the TAUK technique that you developed. The awareness around working with people like yourselves is just so much in the atmosphere with how we can support ourselves with activating these parts of ourselves and really stepping forward into our true purpose and alignment. So talking to you today has got us very excited and got so many possibilities around where we're going to go.
Absolutely.
It'll be a fun talk.
It'll be a fun talk. And we're going to start with asking you, Suzanne, how did your awakening begin?
You know, I love that question. I don't know if I've been asked that before. That's just such a great question. You know, I that question made me ponder a little bit, of course, and it really kept bringing me back to one memory. And this is so crazy, but it's the truth. It's a memory before I was born.
Yeah.
And I remember this as a little girl. I remember telling my mom about it, and then it would leave for a little bit and it'd come back a few years later, and I'd think and ponder on it. But the memory was I was little, maybe about the size of my 2-year-old granddaughter, in stature to a gentleman. I was holding his hand. He looked, kind of the proverbial white robe, gray hair, and I loved him. But the place that we were at was like walking in space. There wasn't any, there didn't seem to be any walls. I don't know. I mean, there wasn't a floor, but we seemed to be walking or floating. I don't know what it was, but it was really funny because I know we were discussing this life I was getting ready to come into, this current life, and there were bins, and this sounds so silly. As a little girl, I was thinking to my baby dolls, but there were legs and arms and tummies and heads. And it's like he and I were walking together and we're kind of like picking out, what I was going to look like, and over time, I'm like, why didn't I pick the long legs? I wish I had long legs because I'm little, I'm 5'2". So, but I remember, I distinctly, I mean, that was kind of like a side job, is picking out what I would look like or be like. But it was this really loving, intense conversation about what this life was going to be about. And I don't remember the details about it, but all of that just is fresh in my mind today, as it always has been. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a funny way to answer your question. But I do remember, I just had just a great normal childhood, ups and downs. But I do remember being maybe third grade or so and being outside in the country where we lived. And I was just always mesmerized by the sky and the stars. And my big question was always, what's past the stars? And like, there has to be something there. And it was just something, this little girl just pondered all the time. And I think I just had a pretty open mind to things other beyond our reality. And so as I grew up, I started, when I could read, I read ghost stories and, things like that. And then I kind of put it away for quite a while, and I was just a normal kid and a normal teenager, and probably was better in high school at socializing than I was at studying, but, had a great time. And
Fantastic.
I was just hanging out, having a great time. And it was probably right before I started having children, I really started diving. My mom's best friend was into astrology and she did readings. And so she'd give me readings, and, I didn't get it, but I thought it was cool. And I had a really profound experience. I mean, it sounds so silly, but it was like something just happened to me. I knew this. I was at a stoplight. I was on my way to her house to get this astrology reading. And I was at the stoplight, and all of a sudden, literally my vision went like 360.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. And, the light changed and everything kind of went back to normal, but I like, well, that was really weird. And so I would kind of catalog these weird things that would happen, and I never dismissed them. And, I got married, I had kids, my father had passed. Sadly, when my oldest was just about 4 months old, he had decided to end his life. So lots of questions there.
Yeah.
And, but I had some incredibly profound visits with him in my visits. Shortly after he passed, these lasted for a while. And, it's kind of like you'd wake up and you felt like you were exhausted because you've been traveling so far. It wasn't a restful, it was heart filling because I had been with him. I got to see him and touch him, and I could smell him, and, it's all the good stuff. But, so I just think I just was always percolating. And, about that time that I took the SRT class, I had a really great friend, Malabika Shah, who was taught SRT, spiritual response therapy, and some girlfriends of mine had taken it and they loved it. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to be left out, so I wanted to learn it. And I thought, it's kind of an intense class. There's a lot of books, or a lot of charts, and, you use your pendulum. And I never had done that before. And, I'm like, I'll try it. And it came so flipping easy to me. I'm like, that's weird, because this is like really like intense and in tiny, tiny details to learn this. But I got it. And what I know now is being guided to take that class gave me the tools of a chart and a pendulum, which were profoundly helpful to me just a little bit down the road. I remember this day, I was driving in my car. I know what street I was on in my little town. And I was seeing I had new sunglasses, and through the corner of my eye, I was seeing this really wild light coming in, and I kept like turning my head, just like, it's the sun bouncing off my sunglasses. Like, these are really cool sunglasses. I just got them at Target, and I'm like, wow, Target has really great glasses. And but it was this really interesting light that kept coming in, and I literally stopped on the side of the road to just observe it a little bit. And I remember just thinking at that moment, because what else would you do? I just think, I want to do something to help people, and I want people to come to me, and I don't want to give them any of the answers. I just want to help them. And that was it. Like, and then I don't know if the light left or whatever, but I'm like clogging up the road. I have to start driving, and away it went. And then it was not long after, like maybe weeks, and I had learned SRT, and my kids had gone to school. My husband had gone to work, and it was just me and our dog, Jack, beside me. And all of a sudden I felt my dad with me. And I'd felt him many times since he's passed, but this was really strong. And I paid attention, and I had this pendulum in my hand, and I knew to ask yes and no questions with it because of SRT. So I just asked, is there somebody here with me? And my yes goes like this. It's kind of opposite of most people's, back and forth. And it did yes so much, it was like kinking. I mean, it was really bad. And I'm like, okay, and I'm really a positive person, like nauseatingly positive. But I was like, temper it down. And not get excited. And I'm like, I wonder if it's my dad, and it goes, yes. And I'm like, okay, figure this out, because my dad and I always had these crazy, great esoteric conversations about, the great beyond and all that. And in my heart of hearts, I knew there'd be a way to communicate with him. And I thought it was through dreams, because that's how we had been doing it up until that time. But I'm looking at the SRT charts, and I'm trying to find a way to like ask questions and communicate, but that's not what SRT is for. And so I had this, brain flash to make a letter chart. And then almost instantly I got repelled and went, I don't want it to be like Ouija,
Yes.
And then another thought comes through, and it's like, no, just do it with really good high intentions and just see what happens. And I thought, having this really hilarious argument within my head, poor Jack is probably wondering what in the heck I'm doing. And so I drew up this letter chart in a circle, and I put the alphabet around it, and I thought, okay, this would be crazy. And I put my pendulum over it, and it starts moving to words. And I'm like, okay, am I making this up? I had a pen and paper beside me, and I actually just screenshot. First message just came up, and I screenshot it just this weekend. But I would put the pendulum down, write a few words, I'd pick it back up, it'd pick right back up where I'd left off, and a few more words, and put it down, and back and forth till I had this message. And it was something like, this is it, ready to begin. We'll to measure gateways of information, or something like that. I'm off a little bit there.
Suzanne, I don't want to interrupt, because it's amazing, but the wife, I don't know whether it's
just glitched a little bit over that really amazing information around what the message that came through. It was, okay, this is it, and we were like,
oh gosh, you know what? My Wi-Fi just changed to somebody else's Wi-Fi. I'm going to change it, but I don't know if that's going to glitch us up.
That's okay.
Should I try?
We'll hang in, and we can also just jump back on if something goes off.
Okay, here we go. Cross your fingers.
Frozen on end. That's so cute.
That's good.
Oh,
yay.
there you are.
There you are, darling.
Yay. Okay, so
the other side.
We're going to pick up the pendulum, and we're going to come right back to that. Where, okay, here we go.
Yes. So I pick up the pendulum, and actually, I mean, I've got my phone right here. I might just pull this message up so I can share it with you.
Oh, wow, yes.
So what happened was, so I picked up this pendulum and, kind of thinking, well, nothing's going to happen, but maybe it will. I went ahead and I started, I'm not going to find it. I'm going to have to let that go. Oh no, I found it. So, I think let's just try this. I had made this letter chart and, I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And as I put the pendulum over the letter chart, the pendulum starts pulling to letters and spelling out words.
Wow.
And I'm like, am I making it do this? But it's like, it's things that I'm not thinking of, that's spelling out. And I had a paper and pen beside me. So I'd let it go for a word or two. I'd set the pendulum down. I'd write the word out. I pick it back up, and heck if it didn't just start right back up where it had left off before. It was just perfect. It was like dictation. And I get this small short message, and here's what it says. Easy to translate with this medium, ready to begin an odyssey. This is it. And I ask, am I working with my higher self for the greater good? And it responds, yes, oh yes, love. Time will tell. Cusp of awareness, begin soon. Will be able to measure gateway to other consciousness.
Oh my God.
Just a small conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm so glad. I'm glad all this glitching happened, because that was worth it to read the true message.
Oh,
So
the love in there, the love and the affirmation, the positivity of the affirmation is so beautiful.
right. And and it's like, where did that come from? Is that like an anomaly? That's just so weird, and as I'm looking at this message after it happens, I'm like, that didn't come from me. I mean, that truly did not come from me. I wouldn't have thought of any of that. And so I get up and I go away, and I think it's later that day or maybe even the next morning, I'm like, okay, now here's where we get with I'm so positive, but I had to like make myself negative for just a minute. Because I thought, what if it happens again? What do I have? What is this? And what do I do with it? And if it doesn't happen again, that was just another weird thing, that I can put in my category of weird things. And so I sit down, Jack's beside me, he's a real loyal little black lab. And I wasn't thinking about my dad, and I didn't even think about my dad with that first. My mind was so blown, I didn't even know what to attribute that message to. And so I sit down the second time, and I put the pendulum over, and I'm proving to myself this won't happen again, because I don't know what in the heck to do if it does. And it spells out, hi, Zippy. And Zippy is my dad's nickname for me. And he's the only one that ever called me Zippy. And he said something like, hi to Mom, which was his ex-wife, but they were friends up to the end. And hello to Jack, who is sitting beside me. And like, what? Like, oh my gosh. And I have to tell you, my heart, it felt like a heart burst. It felt like my heart burst open, and my cheeks went bright red. And it was amazing. And every time after that, I'd sit down, there'd be another message, and it was amazing. And it was, again, it didn't feel like it was coming from me. It felt like it was, something else. And one day, I mean, I hadn't told very many people this, because I thought they're going to think I'm nuts, like, I mean, even my girlfriends who are like, they're us, but I'm like, they're going to think I'm nuts, what the heck is this? And I was in the middle of getting a message in the middle of the day, and my husband shows up in my kitchen. I didn't hear him come in, and he's an engineer. He's like not into the stuff. Yes. And he startles me, and I like put my arms over the table, really in my chart, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing here in the middle of the day? And he said, what are you covering up? I'm like,
so busted.
Yeah, totally busted. I'm like, what do you need? Can I get you something? And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I don't know what this is, but this is what's happened. And I said, read this message. And by then I had several messages coming in, and I'm like, I don't know. I said, it's not coming from me. It's coming through me. I don't know what this is, but it's really cool. And he reads his message, and it's a very deep and profound message. And I love him so much. He meant this in a kind way. It sounds a little harsh, but I know his heart. But he says, yeah. He goes, you're smart, but you're not this smart. And I'm like, exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes,
it's through
yes.
me. And so, and he says, you're, is this a letter chart? And I'm like, yeah. And he says, it's bad.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm not the engineer's coming out of him. I can make you something.
I can make you one on my CAD program. How do you want it to look? And I'm like, oh, well, I want it to have a round circle, and I want it to have, pies coming off of the center circle. And I want 2 more pies in the alphabet just for extras in case I can figure out another reason for them. And he came home that night with the TAUK letter chart. It's the one that I use to this day.
That's so beautiful.
So it's so meant to be that, that
he found
you came out. He forced you to come out, and, like a synchronicity, right? That energy of like, okay, it's just got to change. You can't keep doing this, hiding in the kitchen.
How beautiful.
Yeah. So that's how
so beautiful.
Wow, and it's so gorgeous that he was, the person that enabled you to your vision of how it could best flow and work for the messages to come through, and materialize that for you. Wow, that's beautiful.
And it's funny because just on this whole topic, and I think Amanda alluded on it at the very beginning, what you do in your work is help people, support people to find their own way of listening to their own intuition and building that muscle and all of that. And it's funny because we always pull cards for each podcast. And I just want to show you before we move on.
That's so fun.
But the first card we got was notice the signs. I know it's back the front. Ask.
Oh my gosh.
And the law of attraction, which is so perfect because Amanda and I have been talking a lot around that whole everything that you've just said. So I think what I really want to ask, and I think for our listeners too, is I know that you mentioned a couple of times about you didn't believe that it was you, or you were unsure about, and I think that's a big part in the trusting that that we are worthy, first of all, of connecting to something greater than ourselves, and that it can happen to any one of us. We just have to trust in that.
Oh, I think that's so right. And, in the QHHT sessions I give, people are in hypnosis and tapping into this amazing part of them that knows everything about them. Some people call it the high self or subconscious divine self. Any name is fine. But, it is funny because about signs, just recently, it's not an uncommon question that people have that they want answered in their session. But this gal had, what are the signs that I'm being shown to help guide me? And her high self was so funny. And, it's her talking. It's just this part of us that we're not taught about and how to access and use very, very well. That's changing, but up to this point, it's been that way. And so her high self is just a hoot. And she says, oh, signs. Yeah, okay. So we show her signs. We show her numbers because she loves the numbers. And then she wants a sign for the sign. And then she needs a sign for the sign for the sign. And she was, how many signs for the signs do we need to send before she trusts that we're helping to guide her?
Oh, that's so funny and so true. I mean, how many times do we do that? The sign, we want
Yeah.
the sign, we get the sign. The sign's not good enough. Can I have
It's
a
not
different
loud
sign?
enough.
Yeah.
It's not loud enough.
Yeah.
I fully resonated with what you said too around being a positive person, but you talked yourself out of that to being negative because it wouldn't be able to happen again, or doubting that it could happen again.
Yeah, and it was just, gosh, it's just, what are the ramifications, and I just, in my little kitchen, with my 3 kids in school, I just, what in the heck do I do with this? But, it all unfolded so beautifully into this online class, like I never thought I'd be creating an online class. And, and they were the ones that were creating this class with me. They would, I would get a message and they would talk about, you need to be teaching this. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. How can I teach what I don't know what I'm doing? And I say, well, they could do this and that. And I'd think about it a little bit. I usually would be in my car. That was my great thinking spot. And I'd be thinking, well, I could do it this way or that way. And I come back and I get a message and it's like, they're right there with me in my head. And they're like, right. Now, if you do it that way, add this in and that will help, with this or that. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's perfect. And so we were just kind of going back and forth in these messages in my head and, creating. And once I thought I had this way of teaching people to channel, to tap into this great part of them. I asked my girlfriends, like I had told all of my girlfriends at this point, and they were now they were like on board. This is really cool.
Yes.
And I'm like, do you want to try it? I'm like, I have absolutely no idea if this is going to work at all, but I think I know how to teach this. And each time I would sit down and show them how to do it, the coup de grace was when they put their pendulum over the letter chart, and I'd be like, ooh, it doesn't work. And they all got beautiful messages. It all worked. And then word started getting out and people wanted to learn how to do it. And I thought, I'm only one person and I can't teach that many people, even if I do a group at once. And so, then, I go back and get a message and they're like, well, do an online class. I'm like, snazzy. Okay, guys. How do I do that? And that was an amazing co-creation. And I had to find, a web guy that was, fairly open-minded to like, listen, this is what this is, and this is what they're telling me to do. And I don't understand computers and programming, but this is what they're saying to do. And he's like, there's a company in Canada that I can reach out to. They would know how to figure this out. And I mean, everything just came to be. And so it's just an online class now, and people can learn anytime they want to. And I make it super cheap because I want everybody that wants to be able to do it. And but I think an exchange is good. So it's on my website, and it's been fun. People all around the world have learned how to do TAUK.
Wow,
so
I know that our listeners are going to be like, so we will put the links definitely at the end of the website. I'm intrigued. I'm going to jump on and check it out because I know, I used to do the pendulum with the crystal, and I'm not sure whether it's the same thing with you have a chain with the crystal hanging off it that's in it, and but I never thought of doing it like that. It was more just for yes and no, kind of, am I going to have a boy? Am I going to have a girl? We used to do it for people like that. But I think that's so beautiful. And what kept coming up for me just then is, how we have this kind of AI thing happening now that's really taking over. And the more you spoke about it, I thought it's like having like a chat GPI or whatever it's called over here, who's trying to move us away from tapping into that realness of who we really are.
Thinking for ourselves.
Thinking for
our
ourselves.
Imagination.
And it's another form that's drawing us away from actually connecting into this part of us, of who we truly are.
Yeah, interesting topic, because I do think we're really at this juncture in humanity where we're going to make a huge leap in our personal intuitiveness and understandings about our place in the cosmos, or we can go this other way and be told what everything is. And it's so beautiful, and it's so, detailed and colorful. And so it's attractive, but, the power is within all of us. We all have all knowledge within us. We're waking up from the belief system that we have to go outside of ourselves to find the answers. They always know, whoever they are.
Yeah.
And that's why, I talk about this with my QHHT clients before we do the hypnosis session, that, we've been sold this bill of goods over a long period of time about our imagination, our creativity. I see our imagination and our creativity as the two greatest gifts we come into a life with. It's our direct connect to God or source or whatever name you give that higher power. It's how we create our life.
Yeah.
And we're taught to dumb that down right away. And the tricky part that happened, and I say tricky part because I talk about the bad guys, but we're all volunteers in this great experiment. So we're not victims. We're here to learn. But in that great experiment, they sold us this thought that if you're making it up, it isn't real. If you're making it up, it isn't real. And I mean, we've been told this as children about a lot of things that we probably were very in tune with, but the grown-ups had forgotten and they didn't know how to relate to it.
Yeah.
But where do we make things up from? We make things up from the right side of our brain where our creativity and our imagination is. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you feel you're making it up, you'll devalue it and you won't trust it. If you don't trust it, then you don't follow that gut and that intuition. That's that part of you that's trying to lead you, that we're tapping into a QHHT session or in a talk message. There's lots of different ways to access that part of us. Meditation. There's many ways to do this, but we purposely have been kind of derailed from looking down those paths. It's those weirdo spiritual woo-woo people that, think about that stuff and, a good roll of the eyes. And it's such a funny thing, but that our knowing and truth is inside of us.
Yeah.
We don't have to search anywhere else, and that's why, when I love talk, what I loved about talk was kind of like, when I pulled myself over on that road and I was seeing that light coming in so strangely with these special sunglasses from Target. And
so beautiful.
And my wish was I want to help people, but I don't want to give them the answers. I just didn't want that responsibility. I had great friends who were psychics and intuitives and they did great, but I thought it was really cool. I just didn't see that as my path. And so what I loved about talk was that this wasn't me telling them any answers. This was me showing them how to tap in and find their own answers. And then when I found Dolores, I'm like, whoa, that's a whole other way of doing this. In a session, I'm not answering their questions. I'm not doing the healing. I'm just guiding them to the place where they can access and do this for themselves, which is, again, very empowering.
Yeah.
So that's why I grooved so quickly and well with Dolores and her process. And, I was such a lucky duck because almost immediately after taking that class with her, back in 2012, I started assisting her and Julia, her daughter, in classes, which afforded me the opportunity to sit back in class and listen over and over and over again to her material and how she taught it and what she was trying to get across to the students. And it also afforded me some really special one-on-one time with her to kind of pick her brain and, what do you think about this and what about that? And she was lovely and a good friend. So with her up till the end.
How amazing
That's
is
incredible.
that? And especially, like Amanda just said, when you said 2012, what a powerful year, in itself for you to find, be in that situation and being able to watch her do her magic.
Oh, she was amazing.
Yeah. Co-facilitate, because that's obviously the energy connection between you being invited to be, support what they were doing must have felt very right to them as well.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Wow. So do you, just quickly too, do you still ask questions? Are you still continually ask questions with your talk, using your talk technique?
Yeah. I'm not continually, but absolutely. I have I've got pendulums like everywhere, like in my purse, office, at home. Yeah, I do. And I have thousands and thousands and thousands of messages. And I've got so many projects going right now, but always in the back of my heart, I've got, I've got so much material. I mean, QHHT and TAUK, to put into books. I've got I have a book that we're just getting ready to put out, which is, it's a whole other subject, but it's amazing. It's called The Designer. And it's, oh my, I won't even.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that.
The name says a lot.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. It sounds incredible. So we've talked about how did your awakening begin, and I know we've even dabbled into this next area. But when did you first notice a shift in your thoughts about the world? So I think we have like dabbled in this around when you talk about technology. Even when you mentioned before about how when we're growing up, we're dumbed down by certain things, where we're not being told that, our creativity and all of that is where we need to move into. So when did you first start to wake up about some of the things that you were being told, maybe in the news and so forth, were not as they seem?
Okay, that is such a good question. That is the funniest story. I think, my radar was like going off before this, but gosh, I'm trying to remember what year it was. It must have been like 2015 or 16. Julia Cannon and I were teaching in China, and
Wow.
she and I were walking down our hotel hallway, and we had people that were translating for us, and we had one day off. And so our translators took us around Beijing, just so we could see some of the sites. And I had talked to one of our translators, a sweet gal, about, we were at Tiananmen Square, right, where everything went down.
Yeah.
And the Forbidden City is right there. And I was asking her, I'm like, do you remember, or are you old enough to remember, everything that went on at Tiananmen Square, and the guy standing with the tank and his hand up?
Yeah.
And she goes, we don't know that. Sorry, I'm going to have a.
It's all right. It's a poignant moment, actually. Yeah.
Okay, that's better. Sorry, I'm downtown, so that happens from time to time.
The man in front of the tank.
Yeah. There's noise in the background. That's what she's saying.
Yeah. So I had asked our translator, do you remember those events? Because we watched it on TV really closely. And she says, we weren't told about those events. And she goes, I really don't know what you're talking about. And part of me was like, oh, that poor girl, she doesn't really know what really is going on. Okay, I'm gonna mute just for 1 sec.
No worries. It's again talking about like, I'm just blown away by the fact that Suzanne's in China with Julia. I think that's just incredible, and literally because of this very example that you're sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's such an incredible culture, the Eastern culture, and the healing systems they have there, and the way they relate to the body and to healing.
Yeah. So
the fact that they're over there doing spiritual work as well as, we'll say spiritual work. But
the students were amazing. So anyways, I felt sorry for our translator because she didn't know what really happened, right? And so Julie and I are walking down our hotel hallway, and I'm like, gosh, that's so sad that they don't know what happened, and we do. And I remember Julia looked at me and she says, how do you know what we are told in the news is true? And I went, like,
glitch.
Okay, yeah. And that just kind of like kept pinging way in the back of my head for a while, and and it made me start watching things a little bit. And love them or hate them, doesn't matter. But when Trump started doing the fake news, at first I was laughing at him, and then I'm like, hold on, hold the phone, like, what is real? What is truth? And so that was, I would have to say Julia was my honk on the head
Mm.
on really paying attention to that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because we've all grown up, no matter what country we live in, we've all grown up watching the news, thinking that that's the
Real.
truth and real.
They're helping us.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest conversations is around the footage of did man really land on the moon kind of thing. But as an example of like a very big conversation that's still ongoing for a lot of people, like, is that real footage or not? And yet those same people possibly don't even question what they see on the news each day or what is shown to us. All the
I
time.
think, one of the great gifts that we've had over these last crazy years is, I mean, it's so visible now where people stand with this, which is, and it can be kind of sad but it's like, whoa, okay, I get it. Like, this is where you're at. And that's cool, and I, because of the work that I do, I really don't have judgment on people with that. I think everybody's at where they need to be for their own soul's growth. And it's just, everybody's not going to fall in line with one thought process. And I'm not sure if we ever want that, but it's just like, there's a great channeler. I don't know if you've heard of him, Bashar.
Oh yeah.
Daryl Anka. And I remember listening to him years ago, and he was talking about what's happening now. And he says, it's like two trains are going side by side on a track for a while, and you can, hop over to the other one, whichever one you want to for a little bit, but pretty soon they're going to split and you can't hop anymore. You've made your choice of which one you're going to be on. And I think we're kind of there at this point. But from the work that I do, I really have to take an observer role in my sessions to serve my clients in the highest and best way I can. My personal opinions of anything do not matter. I'm just here to listen to what they feel about themselves and ask the best questions on their behalf while they're under, to help them get as much profound information as possible. So this observer role has been a very helpful skill to me through all these turbulent times and what's, I'm sure, coming, because I don't get my gut tied up into, oh my God, I'm on this side and, I'm on that side. And how can you think that way? I don't do that at all. I'm just like, cool, that's what you need to do. And that's interesting. And I really, really love hearing everybody's points of view from all directions. And I don't, some of it resonates and some of it I'm just like, yeah, not for me, but thanks anyways. And it's been a lighter way to move through these grand shifts of consciousness that are affecting us all.
Yeah, that's a beautiful,
Absolutely
beautiful way of, and just the whole judgment thing around that. It's like you drop all of that because you start to just allow people to be where they're at, which then allows you the space to move and change too. It's like, it's a beautiful way to be. Yeah.
And there's a power in being the observer that is a gift to yourself and to others. Or the eagle's perch is another term that has been coming up a lot for us lately, where you do get to see the bigger picture and you're not, bogged down by all the entrapments or the entanglements of, what you're seeing, what is being offered to you. So you're able to stay in contact with that, what feels right and what doesn't feel right.
Hey, I'm not a master of that, by the way. I mean, I can get like super snarky and like, what an idiot. Blah, 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 blah.
Keeps us grounded.
We are human.
Yourself, okay, let's pull it back up a little bit here, and I kind of, because like that's being human, that's part of the fun of being human, is we have this whole range of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And in the midst of it, especially those darn lows, we think, why in the world would I choose this? This sucks. This stinks. And that's really where we learn. We need that friction in a human life to catapult us into the direction that we need to go to. Perhaps if we were always comfortable, we wouldn't make any changes in our life and we wouldn't learn that much as a soul. And, in sessions, they'll talk about, Earth is like, it's a tough gig, you picked it though, so, we we can't be the victims again. We're here for a reason, and we're putting ourselves into situations so that we can learn. And we're just in this really important time of exponential growth as a collective. And it feels really mucky and weird and hard and not pretty. But again, from that higher perspective, it's easier to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and we chose it.
Yeah, we chose
I like
it.
that.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'll be driving in my car going, what in the world was I thinking? This place is messed up. And then instantly, I'm pretty good at trusting that first thought that comes to mind and knowing what it is. It's that high self, and it'll go, you picked it.
Yeah.
And like, stop whining,
Yes.
okay, fine, I will.
A nice little divinely kick up the butt.
Yes.
Exactly, which kind of brings us to our next question, Suzanne, which perfect little kick up the butt, or the rainbows and sunshine, is what kind of things have happened or are happening to you and for you, like obviously in this space, like your awareness, or as you're just sharing, is heightened around what's happening for you.
Well, this is everything has come so fast, some really good big changes, that I haven't had a lot of time to sit back and reflect on. I've just kind of been, going by the seat of my pants. But, I'm kind of at a time, I've been doing this for 12 years. I love what I do. I'm booked out for years. I'm grateful for that. I cannot believe people will wait so long to have a session with me. And that's, I'm just like, I'm always at awe of that, but I'm grateful. But, I've got, on a personal note, I have 3 little grandchildren, and oh my God, they're just like, I'm like that grandma. You're like, oh my God, like, they are the most amazing human beings that have ever walked this earth. And so and they're close by. So I spend a lot of time with them, and that's a great part of my life that I just didn't even imagine. But professionally, I'm kind of at the time where I could start pulling back a little bit, but I keep adding to it.
Yeah.
I've got this book that's, we're hoping to get out by the end of the year, maybe a little bit later than that. I've got another book that I've already started. I'm giving tours in Egypt to help people uncover their past lives with my amazing friend, Sarah Bressman Cosme. And we're doing that twice a year. And really, we started our own company to do that. Our person that helped us had to take a break. So we're like, well, let's just, I don't know, can we just do this ourselves? And it was the craziest idea, but we're doing it. So
yes.
I've got so much on my plate right now, but I'm very grateful for it. It's just, I guess I'm not slowing down at all. I'm picking up steam, and I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I think that's just probably what's needed.
And
sorry to say,
yeah,
but you're needed.
So needed. You find the energy because you're trusting and going with these things that are coming up, even though it's more and more things, that the energy is there for you, though.
Oh yeah, I think so. And I'm aligning with people that, we're like in the same head together. If it's Sarah, in Egypt, we just crack up because we really don't look alike. But like, even on the tour, people were confusing one for the other. And, it was so fun.
Yeah.
And then my client, who's become my dear friend, that we're co-writing this book together about her sessions. There's just such a symbiotic relationship. And then here's synchronicity. Over a year ago, I got just this random email from this lady, and she asked, she'd followed me, and she liked, my YouTube clips I put out, and she, was a fan, and wanted to know if she could be my assistant. What a sweet thought. And, but I had to tell her, I actually have the most awesome assistant. I love him. I couldn't live without him. He's so good. I said, really, the only thing I really need help with right now is transcribing sessions for these books. And she's like, I love transcribing. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, let's try it. This lady, her name is Elizabeth, has become so integral with this book that my client Beverly and I are putting out, that not only did she transcribe the work, she gets it, and it's deep and profound information. It's kind of it. We used to have the YouTube clips of Beverly sessions out, and they were very popular. But we took them off when we started to write the book because we were getting so many requests about those recordings that we couldn't concentrate on the book. So those are pulled off the web right now while we write the book. And Elizabeth has transcribed the sessions for us. She gets the material. It's been compared to kind of like a modern version of the Law of One, or Ra.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my head's exploding.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so we asked her, she's in the profession where she's around book editors and things like that, and we kind of didn't want to use a publisher because we really want to keep this as ours. We didn't want to give up control over or rights to it. And she lined us up with an editor friend of hers, and we talked to her, and she's really nice. And we're like, this is like, she doesn't get us. No, this is too special to just, no, thanks. And Beverly and I are like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I think Elizabeth could edit this. So we threw it out to her, and she's like, you're not going to believe this, she says, but I have been thinking what I want to do is be a spiritual book publisher. And I'm like,
my God.
I'm like, we're your first book, like, we trust you. You treasure what we're giving you. I mean, you honor it. So let's do it. And so, I think we're going to self-publish, but she's doing the editing and probably the formatting for this book. And she just, before I got on with you, she sent us our introduction, which was mostly Beverly and I, but she threw in some amazing pieces with this introduction. And like I read the introduction, I'm like, I want to read this book. Like, that is a really good introduction.
So beautiful. Oh, the energy.
And she's artwork. And so she does amazing artwork. And so we're putting her artwork in to the book that she feels inspired to create after reading different parts of the book. I mean, everything is just
aligning. Just coming together beautifully and in a beautiful flow without forcing it. But I love the way you talk about it, the openness that I get a sense of your innate trust around what feels right, that you just go there without questioning it, even, which is just a beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, just really
learn from that.
Oh, so much.
Well, and I'll tell you another example. This was hilarious because this like backfired on me so bad. So good. But I get intuitive nudges, but I get them really strongly for other people, not so much for myself. And they keep, I know that's something to give to somebody if it keeps coming and it just won't leave. And my friend Sarah, we knew each other not well. And but I was getting these nudges because she's writing these books about Atlantis and Egypt and all this. And I was aware of her work, and I was getting this nudge. It's always when I'm blow drying my hair, I get blow dry epiphanies, and that Sarah needed to give a tour in Egypt based off of her material. That would work really easy. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. She could do that, I bet. And so, I mean, we know each other, again, not really close, but I've got her number, and I text her one morning. I'm like, this is so weird. Like, I have this thing for you, and you can take it or leave it. I don't care, but can I just give it to you because then it will stop coming to me? And she's like, yeah, what? And I'm texting him like, okay, I think you should offer tours to Egypt based off of your books. I think it'll be great. And I'm like, whoa, yay, I delivered the message. I'm with this, and I'm like, awesome. And she, like, before I know it, she's texted back and she says, well, I'll only do that if you do it with me. And I'm like, no. It's not a me message. This is a you message. This, you go, girl, you run with this. And she's like, no, I can't. I'm getting the message that I can't do it unless you do it with me. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then I'm like, we got your book material, which is mind blowing. I'm like, what if I'm the one that helps people to unlock their own past lives in Egypt, or connect into the collective consciousness that's there to grab information, and that would be astounding. That would be something that they can't get other places. And she's like, let's do it. And so we did our first tour together this past May. And it was a huge, we sold out in 2 days, I think it was.
Wow.
And when we got there, I think it was about the second or third day, where the participants, who were awesome, like flipping perfectly awesome, they started figuring out that this was our first tour. They're like, have you just done it? And we're like, nope, you guys are the first ones.
That's so beautiful. That's got such a beautiful.
Awesome. I mean, they're literally sent from above. They were just,
Yeah.
everybody got along, everybody loved each other. They just had the best times. They had the most profound breakthroughs. And, you know, at the end of it, we're like, okay, I think we have to keep doing this. And so
I love that they didn't even think to question, obviously, where they connected into your offering of the tour. It wasn't until you were all together in person on Egyptian soil where they went, so have you guys been here? Like, well, not physically.
Yeah. Yes.
okay, caveat, we both had been there before. I've been there. Both had been there.
Tour.
Yeah. So amazing.
But we know what we know, you know, and we would love to share what we have. And it was such a beautiful way to share this information, and then just to watch all these minds open up and these connections, you know. And we had a couple propose to each other on the trip, you know.
Yeah, that's special. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm definitely feeling a vibe for this trip, but I love like a lot, because for me what you're saying too is like, I feel like with the card ask, like when we go to places like Egypt, there's, you know, this ancient wisdom, incredible knowledge in these lands and in the arts that are there, so powerfully still sitting on our earth. With translators like yourself, like you and Susan, like there's Sarah, sorry, so much communication to come through. It just really excites me that this is possible for people to connect into, and to have that communication and have that understanding, that knowing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Really
it's like a bonding, and it's, you know, it's a trip of a lifetime for sure. You know, some people come more than once, but the people of Egypt are astounding. They are so in tune, and you know, it's not everything in life is easier for Westerners to see. It's a third world country, and so there's some things that are not pretty. But you know, one of the things that struck me the very first time I was there was, you know, we'd be going through these little tiny villages. There's not a lot of cell phone use because they're too poor to have a cell phone. And I'm like, I was watching things, you know, so it's quite segregated. So men would be here and women would be there, and they were fine with that, it seemed. But they looked at each other and they were talking, and I'm like, what is so strange about this experience? You know, and I'm just watching, and I'm like, they're not on their phones. They're not looking at phones. They're like truly engaged with each other. And I'd watch, you know, little children, you know, running down the road, and I would think, you know, where's the mommy? You know, who's watching them? And the more I got to watching, it was like the whole village was watching all the children.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it was just, wow, this is amazing. And they love, you know, tourism is such an integral part of their economy. And they lost so much of that during COVID that, I mean, it was like a love affair. They were just so grateful to have us there, and we're so well protected. And we have security, even though we don't need it. They, like, the security guys are awesome. But we travel with an amazing woman named Vivian Zaki, who's a PhD in Egyptology. So she gives that perspective too. So we're kind of hitting 3 different genres with this trip, and there's a lot of something for everybody. It's just, yeah, it was a gift to watch people transform on that trip.
Amazing.
I mean, we're so looking forward to the next one.
It's so amazing, and yeah, what an opportunity. What an opportunity for everyone.
Well, it's like we said at the beginning here today with you're sitting on the other side of the world
Yeah.
in the evening
How
or in
lucky
the
are we?
morning. And when you get to travel with people somewhere on the planet and tap into what is there, it just seems like the focus and the intention around what it's all about has to be so activating, you know.
Oh, it is.
sheer
And you know,
nature.
you have to wonder too, like, I mean, they're all activating each other and we're activating the group. And then how are we have to be leaving an imprint from this high energy group. You know, I'm sure lots of groups are like that are around there to bringing their, because it is a very special space on this earth. And you feel it when you go into these temples and in the pyramids and oh my gosh, it is it's a beautiful time.
Yes, one day.
Yes.
We're going to move on to our next question. Now, off track, but still on track. What have you decided to change, like throughout your awakening and when you're becoming more aware of things? Has there anything you've had to change? Like, and when I say that, I mean like as in dietary, alcohol, lifestyle, all of those type of things. Have you changed anything in that way or not? Because you know, it's different for everybody. Like we were saying before, some people don't change anything. Some people it's just happening very naturally and they're still doing the same thing, eating the same foods and all that. Other people have to go through a shift.
Radically change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, so I get to hear a lot of advice from the high selves of my clients. You know, everybody wants to ask questions about their diet and, you know, having a healthier body and all that, you know, and sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I should do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So I kind of like, I feel like I have this pact. Like, I really hate exercising. I'm just not that girl.
Yep.
I like yoga pants. I don't like yoga. So that's it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of have this thing with them that, you know, hey, I will do the work. I'll stay extra long. I'll do whatever you guys want me to do, but, you know, keep me in a comfortable size body, you know, so I can do my thing. And really, for the most part, that's worked.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yes.
You know, I'm getting a little older and, you know, and things are getting a little different with my body. But okay, so I have to tell you this because it's so recent. I made a huge transformation and it's been so easy, but I'm trying to think who sent me this. I think it was Elizabeth, actually. Yeah, it was Elizabeth. She's such a gold mine to us. It was this clip about, the actual clip was actually about promotion on like TikTok and, you know, other things, other platforms, which I don't do. I have no left brain, so I don't do any of that. I hire people to do that for me at this point because they're better at it.
Yeah.
But so she knew, you know, we got this book coming up that we're going to be promoting. And she's like, you really should listen to, you know, what this person says about promotion of that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And, you know, I've got somebody, you know, I'll forward that on to her because she might pick up something from it. But weirdly, in the very beginning of this recording, it's like a podcast, I think. And this guy is talking about this woman who was able to change her timeline to create better health. And I'm like, speak to me, you know, like I get the timeline thing. Tell me about that. And she's kind of, you know, giving her testimony of, you know, she, you know, wasn't having a great relationship with her husband and her body was overweight and she wasn't happy with herself that way. And, you know, it's just this really simple talk that she gave herself about, you know, I'm going to switch into the timeline of my most optimal health. And I am everything with my marriage is going to get a lot easier. And, you know, just kind of talking her through what she would really like to have. And then she says, lo and behold, these things start changing. And she's like, what the heck? My husband noticed that I'm looking nicer in my body and I'm dropping the weight that I wanted to drop. And he's being really kind and considerate, like the way I wished he would be, you know, and she's like, I've switched the timeline. And I'm like, okay, I so understand that. And so I started doing the same thing. I just started talking to myself and I'm like, I want to switch the timeline to my most optimal health. And this is so funny. I had started having what some people would call arthritis, which I don't like to label. And this is so funny. I don't even want to show you, but it's my middle finger. Okay. And I just thought that was
it's your flipping finger.
it's a middle finger and it's stiff and it's sore and you're like, oh my God, you guys are so funny. And but I don't want to have any discomfort in my body, you know, so it's been bugging me a little bit because I know these things. I know that there's a message, you know, arthritis is not being flexible and not being open-minded. I'm like, wow, okay, Suzanne, you walk the walk, girl. And but I started kind of following what she said in that podcast, and I started, you know, I want it's in my little body. If I gain 10 pounds, it's like I can't wear my clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just that little that it makes that much of a difference. And so I kind of had gotten up on the scale, just like I had my high point, and then I went boom, again, and I went, that's it, I'm done. Like, we gotta stop this madness. And so, you know, I've been hearing, you know, this intermittent fasting, you know, here and there and there and there. And I'm like, whatever. I don't know if I could do that. And I'm like, you know what? I want my optimal body and I'm going to do this. I'll try this. And it's been so flipping easy. And so in like the last 9 days, I've dropped about 6 pounds. I know that's not how you guys talk about weight. I don't know what it's equivalent to.
Kilos,
But
I'm not sure.
About 3.5 kilos.
Okay, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's like the flub, the inches have come off. I was in my closet yesterday and I, you know, would have jeans that I could wear up to a certain point and then they're too tight, you know. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm gonna try like my skinniest jeans. And like, I wonder where those are at. And I pull them on and I'm like, oh, they're not even tight. You know, I'm like,
that's so cool.
And my finger feels better.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's where we want to go. Optimal timeline.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, these timelines. I mean, we have all sorts of timelines, you know, where if, you know, you turn left, there's another part of you that turns right because it wants to have that experience. And when you make a decision to do this, there's another part of you that makes a decision to that. I firmly believe that. Dolores liked to talk about that in class a lot, about there's infinite use because your soul wants to have all experience. So, you know, you're focused on this one, but there's another part of you that's focused on this other part of you. And it's like these parallel experiences that we're having. And so her information just like hit and resonated. And like, I'm going to try it. And it's been phenomenal.
We like that. We will be putting that somewhere in the notes for our listeners.
Yes, I'll send you the infamous podcast.
Yes,
that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
But it just shows, as you say, like the innate power that we have within ourselves when we listen to see the signs, align with it, and take the inspired action around it, just to step into those timelines that we want to focus on. I mean, you know, coming back to positivity, negativity, or things like that, it's that self-awareness that is just so incredible, isn't it? And a gift.
So powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited. I love that. I resonate fully with those little things in the wardrobe that don't want to give away because they don't quite fit, but you know, one day they will. And it's like this, you just refresh my
Yes. I know that feeling, yes. Well, next question is, what have you had to give up? Anything you've had to give up? People, things?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, it all goes back to our wonderful experience of COVID. And I didn't toe the line. I didn't do the group think. And yeah, it was very upsetting to members of my family. All my girlfriends are like, you know, we're all on the same path that way. And it's, you know, it's been very in my face at times and very upsetting. And but you know, some of it has been kind of a relief to take a break and you know, not hold judgment, just like, wow, I really don't align with that way of thinking anymore. And I'm just going to trust my gut. And there's one relationship that is dearer to my heart than any other that I'm thinking about here. The other ones were, you know, kind of off to the side. and this one that's really dear to my heart, I'm in the midst of right now. And it's, it's a tough one because there's just unconditional love, and both ways, just, the one has a boundary, and I'm not crossing it, so I get cut off. But I know in my heart of hearts that everything is good. I know on a higher level we're playing roles so that we can learn about ourselves in a deeper sense. So my little ego can get really sad about it, but I do trust that everything's happening the way it's supposed to, and everybody's where they need to be for their own soul growth. And I admire people who can stand up and say, this is my line, and, cross it or don't. But it's hard. I think it's kind of a universal thing for a lot of people right now. And so I'm not alone, and I don't have a big pity party. And I've got a lot of people who love me for as I am, and, don't question my decisions. So I treasure that too. So yeah, that's the human side to where I'm at, I guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's when we look at the bigger picture of that, it's another distraction to cause separation, like especially when we look at the scale of the planet at the moment, and especially what's happening on the planet at the moment, and probably more for you being in America as well. We see a lot of it, and we're just like, wow, what you guys are going through, governmental wise, and other things that are happening there as well. There's a lot of separation being had, and it's an opportunity for you to drop everything, like I think what you've been talking about, and just allow people to be where they're at. But there's also another lot of people that are really grabbing hold of the distraction, which is just creating more separation.
You know what I think is really cool though? Okay, so back in 2012, when I started doing QHHT, and I got to, have this great seat next to all these high cells and ask questions, and, it's 2012, so it's so many, the world's going to end, and all that stuff, right? And I remember, back then, the high self saying things like, okay, get ready, because it's going to get weird. Like everything's going to get really, really weird. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, like earthquakes and tsunamis and that stuff. And they're like, well, you're creating it as you go, so we can't really tell you exactly what it's going to be like. But you're doing this so that everybody can wake up, as many as possible, to make this great shift. And so, I always keep that in the back of my mind. I certainly didn't think it would be what we've all experienced in these last several years. That one wasn't on my radar. But but it's, I think, as ridiculous as things get, it's more and more people are seeing the divisiveness for what it is, and that it's manufactured to keep us separated. And then I think that helps them make the leap over to, I'm not going to be divisive, and I am going to accept people for where they're at, and let's try to work together. And I think we're kind of, this Middle East stuff is giving people a really interesting point of view. And, it's sad to think any of us need to suffer. But, what I hear in sessions over these years so often is that everything that's happening is that soul's decision. Nobody exits unless it's their time to exit. And it can look terrible and awful and surprising, but it's what they needed and what those around them needed in order for their soul growth. It was agreed upon. And it's so temporary. And this is so nothing. We're so much more than this physical form. And I hear it, when people have past lives, if you're going on a linear time frame, and they get to that last day of that life, and they transition back to the spirit side, and it's always a beautiful experience. I'm not advocating for that. Everybody needs go when they go, but there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. And so I have these really funny points of view coming in from all over when I'm watching all this stuff go on, and I don't watch too much news anymore. I just kind of tap in and go, "Ooh, that's weird," and I'm done with that now, and let's concentrate on something more positive for me. But it's an amazing time to be on the planet, and it's a gift to be here. And Dolores would say often that if you have a physical body and you're on the earth at this time, you have the golden ticket. And there's so many souls that want to be here physically experiencing this great shift and change, because it's I think only happened one other time in the cosmos. So it is the golden ticket. And we have to get out of our pity party. And
it's very profound.
It's so beautiful. I know years and years ago, I was a big lover of Abraham. They were my first people that I kind of loved listening to. I just got so much from it. And one question that an interviewer asked was, what is the one thing that you miss about planet Earth? And he said the contrast. They said the contrast. We don't have the contrast, the feelings, the experience, on the other side, we don't have that, and you miss it when you don't have it. And it's like, that was such a profound statement to me, because I was like, I never thought about that concept, of when you cross over, there's just love and there's light, and you don't have the contrast anymore.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely amazing. It doesn't feel so amazing when you're in the midst of it times, but if you have that awareness that, this is part of the deal you came here for, then it kind of lightens your load, I think, of, okay, and I think it helps you to stop and say, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this experience right now? What is it trying to show me? And it's the same thing with, physical ailments with the body. Those are messages that part of you is trying to get you to pay attention to change direction or understanding or belief or experience. And if we navigated with our bodies, we would have a whole different type of living experience. It's really our true north.
True north, absolutely. And I think, we've kind of come, it's beautiful, full circle to where we started around leaning into ourselves and that, connection with ourselves as our PowerPoint, as opposed to being drawn out by all the distractions or the razzle dazzle or, the fake news. The true news is our true north. That's the true communication, that's the true information that is our first step forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really love what you just said around the golden ticket. That just changes so much from the point of being grateful to be, like, one, that we chose to be here, but two, to be grateful.
No victims. No victims.
No victims. Yeah. So we're going to ask you next, beautiful. So what do you do now to support yourself to staying in the moment? Because you seem like you're so busy. You are busy. I'm not saying you are.
Oh gosh, you guys ask the best questions. I'm telling you. I tend to do it more at night when I'm getting ready for sleep, or if I wake up in the night and it takes me a little bit to get back to sleep. And I really will do some tapping into myself and try to find information that will help me move forward in my highest and best way. Sometimes in the car, I want to listen to podcasts and things or music, but a lot of times I'm just quiet in my car, because that's when I get my information coming in. And I'm getting better at practicing what I preach and listening to those thoughts that come in and knowing, what's left brain fear-based thought and what's right brain all loving thought. going more with that. I'm grateful, gosh, okay, that's gonna almost make me teary. I was in that not awake, not asleep state not too long ago in the morning. And it came to me that you need to really relish the time that we're in right now. Like, be appreciative of what brings you joy and happiness right now, because I think things are going to change. And I don't mean that like, oh, it's going to get really horrible, but I think it's going to change. And I think these times, although they don't altogether seem too calm, are very calm. And we get lost in the news and the fear that's being presented to us in so many different ways that we don't take time of how beautiful it is outside, and how wonderful it is to be with people who love you, and enjoying water and food and the things that make you happy. And I'm trying to really be present with that. And a long time ago, for I don't know why I did this, I would catch myself like in a really pretty moment or a happy moment or just an interesting moment, and I'd say, I'm going to bookmark that. And in my head, I think I have my bookmarks somewhere here that I'll get to go back over at some point. They're like my most treasured experiences. And it can just be, giggling with my granddaughter, or, it's simple things. And so as crazy as the world gets, I try to pull myself in and just be really grateful for the simple things and understand that that's really what it's all about anyways. And I just don't let this outside world, I find it interesting, this outside world, but I don't take it personally. And for anybody that needs to, I think that's what they need. They're learning something from it. So it's not me to judge, but that's not my role in this experience.
Yeah, I think it's really a beautiful piece of advice that, to not be distracted by the outside world and just bring it into the simplicity of, hopping into a comfortable bed at night and putting your head on a soft pillow. Yeah.
I do that. Like I do when I get into bed at night, I love you, body. I love you, body. You did such a great job today. Thank you so much for being so healthy and wonderful. And I love you, bed. I love you, pillows. And you're just so perfect. And, everything is working. And I have this room and my view and everything is thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
That is one, I guess I hadn't thought about that's one practice I do most nights. And I think it's a nice way to end a day or begin a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
our very last question, which I think you really answered, you interwove it into that second last question, which was, how do you see the world now through your eyes?
I feel like I'm a cosmic reporter.
Yeah, beautiful,
right? So I am okay with seeing the worst of the worst. And observing it for what it is. And I'm okay for, seeing things in a very high, lofty perspective as well. I am excited for life, and I'm excited for the changes that are coming. I mean, I'm grateful that I've had a front row seat with the high self for 12 years to tap in and ask questions or to channel and get, these wonderful pieces of wisdom from all over everywhere in my channeled messages. So I feel excited. I'm cautious always, because I'm living in a physical body and there's physical things happening in our world to be mindful of. But there's a balance there, and I'm cautiously optimistic that physical world stuff is going to settle down and better things are coming. And I feel that the best thing that I can do for everyone around me is to stay in a real positive place and create positive things to fuel that experience instead of being fearful or crabby or down about where the world is. Gosh, I remember, when I was a kid, everybody's like, oh, the world's coming to an end. We're gonna, we're gonna be out of gas, and like we're all fine. It's all fine. It's all theater. It's just such theater. My goodness. And so I'm happy. I'm very happy with my life, and I'm grateful for what I've learned, and I'm grateful for my perspective, and I'm excited to see how the future unfolds. And I think we are creating it as we go. So we can change any of this at any time. It's just, a collective and individual decision and perspective.
Beautiful.
Totally encapsulates a beautiful place to sit and to be and to exist without limitation. Really beautiful, Suzanne. Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Thank
we are
you.
so grateful to have you sit with us today. It's been a real honor to hear your awakening journey and how beautiful it is.
Thank you. Well, I'm on it, so.
Yes, absolutely. And it's an ever evolving one, as we know.
There's no stopping anytime soon. It's like there's a lot more coming from where you're sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So we will put all of the links, all of your links on the bottom of this podcast for our listeners if they're interested in jumping on and doing some talk, which sounds so amazing. I
just see that as really a part of what people can do.
Yeah.
All the time, like just have a conversation with self, have a higher self, and whoever comes through, and just be connected into all those timelines around us. It just feels incredible. Thank you.
We're all so amazing. It's wonderful to be aware of that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for coming on, and we will hopefully maybe one day talk more to you about what you do and more about TAUK. I'd love to learn a lot more about that. I think that sounds really interesting.
And design, I think, in the book,
in your book,
the sessions. I think there's a lot of gift in there with the sessions and people being willing to share their journeys as how powerful those moments are in your QHT.
Yeah.
The gifts in there for everybody. And when it comes translated to a book, I mean, that's a big ripple. That's the one I love. Thank you.
Yeah, I love sharing what I do, and I hope it helps others.
Thank you, Suzanne. Much joy. Bye.
Thank you.